Today's video is brought to you by no one, I guess. I don't have a sponsor for this video. My patrons, my awesome patron supporters. I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you so much. And keep an eye out for our stream next weekend if you missed this last stream we did for Patron only. For those of you interested in joining Patron, make sure you check the link below. And for those of you that aren't, ignore the link below. And without any further ado, let's begin. This happened back in the fall of either 2002 or 2003, when I was around 12 or 13 years old, near Clinton Lake in Kansas on a Boy Scout campout. I still go backpacking and camping a lot, but this was the last camping trip I remember attending before moving states. We arrived at our campsite on a Friday and planned on staying through Saturday and leaving on Sunday morning. I remember us having to set up our tents in the rain Friday evening, but Saturday was sunny and gorgeous. I don't remember every precise detail, but right before we went out to hike that morning, an old van, perhaps a late 70s model, pulled into a campsite within view of ours. These guys were hippies with a capital H, and that was my first exposure to what weed smells like when some of us asked if a skunk was nearby. They were too far away from us to hear any specific conversations, but even the adults found this to be a funny sight. One of the leaders, I think, went over to ask them to stop using drugs in front of us or to move campsites. When we got back from our day hike, those hippies were still at the same campsite and so baked. They couldn't play their instruments with any skill. Here's where it got weird. By the time the sun was setting, the group of stoners had completely ditched their hippie attire and had dressed in total goth style. Some had makeup and made their faces unnaturally pale, and others had black trench coats on, and they must have had a stereo because all we could hear over there was grunge metal playing. That night after we cooked and ate dinner, all the scouts, including myself, headed out into an open area of campgrounds to play capture the flag. We collectively established the boundaries, which was still pretty close to the group of now goths, but it gave us a different angle of view on their site. I doubt they had any idea we were there, since we were playing with no flashlights. By this point, the grunge metal had been replaced by this creepy, ominous opera music. I succumbed to curiosity, but I wasn't about to sneak into their campsite. I just crept a little closer to see what they were doing. They had made a huge campfire, beyond legal limits, and I couldn't see any of the group. On a tree, I saw something that had me initially freaked out, but I figured they were still feeling the weed and any other drugs they may have taken for this to be real and continued to play. I think we only played one more game and then retired to our tents. At some point in the middle of the night, all of the adult leaders woke us up and told us to quickly and quietly pack up our things, take down our tents, and get back to the bus. As we were packing everything up, we couldn't help but notice the bonfire was still going strong, but the music had stopped and we heard people talking. The tone didn't sound like casual conversation either, but I couldn't hear specific words. I don't know how to describe it. Once everyone and everything was on the bus, the driver got us the hell out of there. The adults were abnormally quiet, and the scouts congregated at the back of the bus. I don't remember if one of the adults told us about those guys, but we knew it had to have been regarding that strange group. A fellow scout from the other CTF team had also tried to sneak into their campsite, and saw the same thing I did. Ever since, I'm inclined to think what we saw was real, and a reason for us cutting the trip short. Hanging from the tree, he and I saw a decapitated dog and 2 severed human legs. I have a few updates for you. Some are already in the comments of the Reddit post of this, so you can follow the link if you want to read more into detail, but the OP did update the following. I'd spoken to my dad about his recollection of this event, since he was with me. He thought this was 2004, but I'm pretty confident this was before I turned 14. According to him, by the time we scouts were in our tents, the adults were up a bit later than usual so they could keep an eye on the freaky group. One of them apparently did call the police about these guys, but it was decided best for us to get out of there as soon as possible. It's unlikely that the group was there to harm us or scare us, but when you have a bunch of kids around, you obviously don't take chances. We don't know if they ever got back with us after they showed up. Few of us had cell phones back then and the reception was likely poor. I got to bring this up to one of my old scout buddies, and he remembers one of the scout leaders talking about seeing them shooting up, while others were walking all over the campground. Drugs, questionable people dressed in black, and roaming around the campground makes a pretty valid reason to get out of there. He forgot that 2 of us had seen what we'd seen. My dad said something similar, and that they were chanting at points, and he didn't know about what I'd found. The other scout, Kyle, who saw it too, I think had a clearer view than I did. I don't talk with him anymore, but one of his friends I still chat with, and he was with us on the trip. He remembered a couple of those guys waving at us a few times. Not to necessarily creep us out based on how he described it, but just to wave, I guess. He didn't say if they waved throughout their wardrobe change. I would guess they were more social during their hippie phase. Also, some have asked if there's a chance that the dog and legs were prop. In short, yes, they could have been. But given that night's circumstances, I can't help but have suspicions. This happened a long time ago, age 5 or 6, but it comes up every once in a while at family gatherings, and though it's not as bone-chilling as some of the stories on here, I figured it would fit. For context, I have a very close extended family, as in a huge family that all lives within 30 minutes of each other. We all live in the suburbs of a large city, far enough away that it is generally considered a safe area with neighbors all knowing each other and car doors left unlocked in the driveway. When I was young, my grandma used to watch my cousin and I, same age, and she had 2 dogs. Dog 1 was Benji, a sweet, lovable dog. Dog 2 was Cheyenne. She was nice enough, but we always preferred Benji as he was nicer, more playful, and generally wanted to be around us more. We'd always play in the backyard with each other, sometimes with supervision and sometimes without. It was a fenced-in yard and, like I said, a nice area. Nothing strange at all. One day we're playing outside as per usual. Benji is inside with Grandma. Cheyenne was outside, but just laying away from us as we played with our cars or whatever we were messing with that day. We didn't notice until he started talking, but once he speaks, we notice an older man, maybe 50-something, trying to talk to us through the fence, no more than 20 feet away. He seems nice enough, but I was young, so I had no clue. We kind of walk over to him, but not very close, 6 feet from the fence. He's talking to us about God knows what. This whole time, Cheyenne had started to come over by us and was growling lowly. We didn't think much of it and kept talking. I can't remember what the subject of the conversation was. All I know is that at one point he began to try to call us over to him, to which we wouldn't. We knew that much at least. He was getting upset. At this point, he started to climb the fence. I have never been so afraid of a dog in my life. Cheyenne starts going absolutely berserk. As in, if he had gotten over the fence, I don't think Cheyenne would have let him leave the yard alive. He jumps back. My grandma hears this happening, so she rushes out to the yard and sees the guy, us, and the dog going insane. She starts screaming like I had never heard her scream before as he runs away and down the road. We ended up being rushed inside where my grandma sat us down and very nicely explained the stranger danger thing again. My grandma had no idea who it was. It was not a neighbor. The whole time the rest of the day, Cheyenne would not leave our sides. I was always a little scared of Cheyenne after that. I know now it wasn't fair to her, she was protecting us. After that, I always learned to trust my dogs. We've had dogs as long as I can remember, and I will always trust any of them over any person every time. I have no idea what he was planning on doing if he got in the yard and Cheyenne hadn't been there. When I was a sophomore in high school, I had a really popular math teacher for algebra, whom I'll refer to as Mr. Myers. He was not only a teacher, but also the coach of the school's varsity football team. Mr. Myers was a friendly and laid-back guy who was always more than happy to help others with math, even if they weren't in his class. The class I was in was slower paced, and as a result was filled with kids who for the most part didn't give a shit about anything and were just obnoxious dicks. Because of that, I was one of the few people in the class who didn't drive Mr. Myers insane, and he grew to like me. I remember one day a kid who sat next to me asked me if I did any drugs or other inappropriate shit, and Mr. Myers told him to leave me alone. Anyway, I was doing poorly in class, and Mr. Myers suggested that I see him once a week after school to get tutored. Since I didn't see any of the after-school tutors that were available, I agreed. For a few weeks, I would see him once a week on days I didn't have math to get some extra help. Mr. Myers was very supportive and encouraging during these sessions, and I did improve from visiting him. Even though I was extremely terrible at math, I did admit that he was an excellent teacher, and could really tell he wanted to make an impact on some people. I remember when I was a junior, I wanted to be a teacher's assistant for one of his classes. After what happened later, agreeing to see him for tutoring would end up being one of the most chilling decisions I ever made. Fast forward to 2017. Mr. Myers had left the school a few years before that, and at that point I had forgotten about him. When I arrived home from school one day, I checked the newspaper out of curiosity. What I saw on the front page will always chill my spine. It turns out that Mr. Myers had his teacher credentials stripped by the state because former female students of his who attended the same school as me came forward that he sexually abused them. To say that I was stunned would be an understatement. I couldn't believe that I was so close to being one of those poor souls. I'm very thankful nothing ever happened to me, but it always makes me sick knowing that a predator was roaming around the school targeting vulnerable girls like myself. Even sicker was that one of the people who had helped Jane Doe file the complaints against Mr. Myers said that the school district knew about his behavior but didn't bother to do any investigating on him. It makes me wonder if I can ever trust the district ever again. What was extremely freaky was that one of the Jane Does could have been someone I graduated with, as she was the same age as me during the time. My acquaintance was spreading around the idea that people within the class could send him school-related memories in hopes that they would be entered into the yearbook. Sadly, he said that one of the entries he received was by a sexual assault victim. I sometimes wonder if that person was the Jane Doe who could have been in my class. I'm happy to say that Mr. Myers is far, far away from me, and it's unlikely I'll ever see him again. For the record, those stories my acquaintance received never made it into the yearbook. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And if you want to help support the channel, like I said in the very beginning, you can check out the Patron page. And I also want to give a big thank you to all the people that have been messaging me, letting me know that YouTube isn't showing you my videos. Which I kinda already knew because I can see my own analytics and see that things are a little crazy. I don't know what's going on. Regardless, I really do appreciate everyone private messaging me and letting me know that you're checking back daily. And I'm going to try to put more videos out for you so you actually find some stuff daily. I think I've almost got the routine figured out for working and coming and doing this. Oh, and a side note to all my patrons as well. If you missed me saying it on the stream, I actually got permission to show a little behind the scenes of what I do during my day job. So to all of my patrons, make sure you keep an eye out for a behind the scenes of what I do. But I still got to make the video, so it's not going to be like within the next week. Plus I got to have the higher-ups actually watch it and make sure it's good. Regardless, I'm excited to show you all what I do behind the scenes. At work, not doing the recording. I hope everyone has a great day, and I really appreciate you checking out this video. And I will catch you in the next one. And just remember, it's always scarier if it's true. Bad bye. So this is the part where I normally make up a story off the top of my head, but I think today we're going to do things a little different. I'm going to sing you all a song. Never mind. We're just going to go ahead and do a story, never mind. Back when I was 16 years and 322 days old, I decided to take my dog for a walk. It was about 4 in the morning, but my parents always worked, so I was home alone, so I was pretty much an adult. That's how it works, isn't it? I'm out walking my dog and I see this person across the street from me. For a little context, the place I'm walking is very well lit. We live in a city in a high-rise, so I'm walking on the city streets, so everything's lit up like a candle. So I see this guy following me. At first I think he's possibly just going the same way as me, so I cross the street and keep going. He too crosses the street and keeps pace with me. I look down at my dog, a little Chihuahua, and I know deep in my heart if this guy tries anything, my Chihuahua will tear him up. Most of you might have this preconceived notion that Chihuahuas just shake in a corner and pee on themselves. But let me just tell you, my Chihuahua is a wiener dog Chihuahua, so he's got a lot more guts than just your average Chihuahua. I've been walking for 5 minutes at this point and this guy is still behind me. So I decide it's probably best I head back home. He follows me all the way to my building, but I'm very careful to make sure he doesn't get my key password to get upstairs. I brought my Chihuahua wiener upstairs and gave him a nice snack since he was a good boy. And then I went back to watching My Little Pony. During my walk, I had missed half of an episode, and that wasn't something that sat okay with me. I'm a brony. So as I'm sitting there catching up on My Little Pony, I hear a ring on my buzzer. Hey little boy, I saw you walking that really pretty Chihuahua wiener. Do you mind if I come up and give him a treat? I have some really good wiener dog Chihuahua treats. It's actually homemade possum jerky. I found a possum on the street and I scooped it up and made some really good jerky that I'd love to give your Chihuahua wiener. So how about you come on down, or I can come up, whichever's easier. Your Chihuahua wiener's really got to try this possum jerky. In fact, you might like it too. It's all I've eaten for the past 3 days. It's very high in nutrients. And don't worry, I didn't harm the possum, it was already dead on the side of the road. But it tastes so good. I pressed the button but quickly realized that I probably shouldn't say anything, so I quickly released the button. I hear him over the microphone. I heard you press the button. Are you trying to let me up? There might be a different one. You're probably pressing the intercom button on accident. I decided it would probably be best if I just told them to leave. So I got on the mic and said, "We don't want any possum jerky, you can go. Thank you." Before I could even finish the sentence, he's back on the mic. "Oh, I'm licking this possum jerky. It tastes so good, it's marinated in teriyaki. You and your dog really need to try this. I promise it's the best thing you've ever tried." That's when I start to wonder, what does possum jerky taste like? It doesn't sound like it would be very good, but I'm also from the city, so I'm not really sure how some of these things taste. I don't think I've ever seen possum for sale at the grocery store. So, against my better judgment, I tell him that I will bring my dog right down. And that's what I do. Me and my Chihuahua wiener make our way downstairs to meet this stranger at about 4:30 in the morning, to hopefully try some of the best possum jerky I've ever tried. Well, it would be the only possum jerky I've ever tried, but I'm hoping it's good. We get down there, and the second I open the door, the man tries to force his way inside. That's when my Chihuahua wiener went crazy. I had never seen him act like this. I told Mandingo Pie to stay back. That's my dog's name. But he was on a tangent. He lunged at this dude and stole all the possum jerky. While he was doing this, I took the opportunity to slam the door, and once my dog got the jerky, I opened it, let him in, and the man was stuck outside. That's where we proceeded to eat the jerky right in front of him. him pounding on the glass the entire time, screaming I better let him in or he'll kill me and my family. I told him the jerky was really good and thanked him. Then I walked back upstairs and went to bed. Mandingo Pie, my dog, decided to sleep under the blankets next to me that night. When I woke up the next morning, my parents were home, and they informed me that a man was waiting outside our building trying to see our wiener chihuahua, and that he said something about possum jerky. That's where they took the opportunity to explain stranger danger, because prior to this they told me it was fine to talk to anybody on the street no matter what age I was because everyone's really nice and no one would ever hurt me. So I stopped my late night walks, but I did start asking my parents for a ride into the middle of nowhere on the weekends. I was trying to find some possums that had got run over so I could make some possum jerky, because it was very good. Very good. Better than this story, and better than my singing if I were to sing. But I was never going to sing. I just thought that would be a funnier intro than just be like, yo, made up story, guys. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this video, and sorry to waste everyone's time on the last story, but I do know some of you like your time wasted, so there you go. Time wasted. Mission accomplished. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I really do appreciate you listening. And if you made it this far, I would really appreciate if you press the like button, or even the dislike button. Whichever button fits your fancy. Just hit it. Bye.